has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast. It's Ferrall on the bench, coast to coast, in the biggest way possible, hanging out the bad seat, broken in a bad apple with a bad attitude, hanger, bad at bad seat, bad law, bad dude, bad breath, bad attitude, bad vibes. We are live in the Magic City Studios in the Borough Palatial, right across the river and through the woods from where Granny loves a little Abba Zaba hybrid in New York City, the Big Apple. Ooh. People dressed in plastic bags, directed traffic, some kind of fashion shakeout up, stupid. All my fitness come around, flat to party up. Rats on the west side, but bugs uptown. What a mess, is thousands of my brain splattered all over Manhattan. Shake it up, so do it. Oh, woo, woo. I think I might have caught something from Keith's. It's only rock and roll, but I like it. Yes, I do. A birthday roll call, along with the fact that I'm Ferrall Carver Hyatt today with Mafia and Luke. I am your father. Here we go. Let's see who's having a big day. Ben Gleason, 26. Emmanuel Mosley, 28. Mike White, 29. TJ McConnell, 32. Mike Zanino, 33. Daryl Arthur, 36. Hin Jin Ryu, 37. Kyle Lowry, 38 with Marco Bellinelli. Danica Patrick's kind of hot, 42. Terrence Stubbs, 44. Vladimir Klitschko, 48. Mike Adams, 50. Cami Granado, badass, 53. Cheryl Swoops, 53. Travis Fryman and Dale Davis, double nickels. Tom Glavin, 58. Avery Johnson, 59. Lee Mazzilli, 69. My God. Mike Nagy, 76. Jim Ellis, 79. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Well, we're going to break it all down for you. The Sweet 16 is set for Thursday and Friday games. And then, of course, over the weekend, the Elite 8 games and a chance to win a trip to the Final Four. Yesterday, Houston beat A&M in overtime, 195. We got it all for you at the end of the game. Plus, Kelvin Sampson talking about Jamal Sheed. He said he's the best player on the floor in that game. How about 4 guys foul out and they still win? Alabama beat Grand Canyon 72-61. We got Nate Oates talking. San Diego State beat Yale, blew them out, and we got a Ladie dunk. So we'll play all of that. We welcome our radio affiliate, Sirius XM, channel 159, our satellite partners all over the Southern Hemisphere. Of course, Sports Byline USA and their great radio affiliates out of San Francisco, DPEC holding it down for us. Plus, we'll hear from Brian, the Dutch Oven. Brian Dutcher, the coach of the Aztecs. Morency will join us this very hour. Plus, Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News and Fox Sports in this first hour. Of course, UConn beat Northwestern. We got a Klingon bucket. He was going off. Clemson put an end to Baylor's season. Chase Hunter beating the buzzer at halftime for Clemson. Back-to-back wins for Clemson. People didn't think they should be in the tournament. I hit them in the first game, went against them with Baylor. I had Baylor going to the Final Four. End of that dream for me. Duke beat James Madison, spanked them 93-55. We got highlights from that. Purdue beat Utah State in a big way, 106-67. And Marquette by 4 over Rado. Cam Jones with a big game, plus Kolek for the Golden Eagles. All right, let's talk about Saturday. Creighton in double overtime beat Oregon late night, 86-73. A great game. Tennessee beat Texas in another good one, 62-58. NC State in overtime by 6 over Oakland. I had Oakland at 6 and a hook. Cover! Illinois beat Duquesne easily. North Carolina, same thing against Michigan State. Izzo still wants to keep coaching and wants to go on another deep run in March. Gonzaga beat Kansas 89-68. What an ugly last couple of months for the Kansas Jayhawks. What a shame. Arizona beat Dayton 78-68. Iowa State over Washington State 67-56. I think that Washington State coach got that job at Stanford today as the new coach of the men's Cardinal team, even though the women's team matters so much more than the men at Stanford. It's got to be tough for the fellas. We got on the Lion's Share today Coach James Young breaking it all down for us and throwing down some lumber for tonight's action around college and the NBA. Davis Lee Rothmatic of Fantasy Sports Today will join us as well in the second hour. He'll talk Phillies. He'll talk some players. He's got some props going for players. Opening week in Major League Baseball. And we'll talk about the Ohtani scandal with Davis Maddock today. We'll do today in Carver High history on a Monday. Plus, we got your tournament betting update, Sweet 16 games. We'll tell you who's playing on which day, Thursday, Friday, all the games, odds to win the national title, the biggest liabilities for the books. And they got smoked by the public this weekend. That's all there was to it. Washington, as I talking about hiring, they hire Utah State coach Danny Sprinkle. Vandy hires James Madison coach Mark Byington. And Michigan hires Dusty May at FAU. West Virginia hires Drake coach Darian DeVries. Stanford hires, as I mentioned, Kyle Smith is your guy now at Stanford and Palo Alto. And we got women's tourney games going on right now as we speak. Hidalgo and the Lady Irish taking on Ole Miss and a beatdown. Notre Dame 43-26 right now at the half. And, of course, LSU coach Kim Mulkey says she's suing everyone that's out to get her. She's hired a defamation law firm to take on, allegedly, the Washington Post, who she claims is having a hit piece done on her, like a mobster. Your girl, Liberace over here, suing everybody. No one's allowed to talk bad about Kim Mulkey. And if you talk bad about her outfit, she'll sue you too and take your family and children. NFL owners' meetings are going on in Orlando. The owners set to vote on the new kickoff rule, whatever that is. The NFL eliminates the swivel hip drop tackle, whatever that is. Coaches will now get a third challenge if they win either of the first two challenges. That makes some sense to me, as opposed to the swivel hip drop, which I think Carver High taught me once when we went to wrestling school. I only lasted 2 weeks before quitting and getting drunk and staying in the city at night on the streets. That's what it did to me, trying to turn me into a wrestler, Carver High. Professional wrestling, that is. The Chiefs trade Ladarius Sneed to the Titans. They'll regret that. Jim Harbaugh says J.J. McCarthy's the best quarterback in the draft, hands down. The Vikings are going to be aggressive in trying to trade for McCarthy. Mike McDaniel says the Dolphins have an offer for Odell Beckham Jr. Mike McDonald, the new Seahawks coach, is confident with Geno as the QB1. John Lynch says Brandon Ayuk is not available for trade. Dable says Daniel Jones is the starter for the Giants once he's healthy. We'll talk about all the NBA and tonight's games. There's 11 games tonight in the NBA. Houston's on fire. What have they won? 8 in a row. You can't slow them down. We'll have odds to win the World Series. Opening day Thursday. LeMahieu will start the season on the IL for the Yankees. How about Robbie Cano blasting home runs against the Yankees over the weekend in an exhibition against a Mexican team? Man, did he look bizarre in that outfit. And tonight's games in the NHL, we got a pair of them for you. We'll even talk golf today. It's a Monday. Go with us on Coast to Coast.
I was going through this bracket, and I kind of lined up where I was in the futures market. I said, I have one more bullet left. Where do I go? And I played Tennessee.
$10,000 worth of Oakland gear has been sold to people with Louisville area codes. Like, this is going to sting people who are Wildcat fans because their arch rival gets to walk around and say, you lost to who?
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Betting in game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the number so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot, and I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like, technology can only like travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night only on SportsGrid.
They go into the Pac-12 tournament, they win it, then they go into the NCAAs, and they put up a bucket load of points. They have looked fantastic. That's not the team that I saw in the regular season.
All those people that had all that extra time because of those COVID seasons is going to be gone, and you're not going to really have the 23, 24, 25-year-old basketball players running around anymore. You're not going to have it.
Ferrall coast to coast, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live, all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
BetMGM is for everyone that loves sports betting. Everyone. But Tom Brady.
Wait, what?
You've won too much, Tommy. Let others play.
So I'm in if I'm not Tom Brady?
You're in. Now dog me.
What if I used to babysit Tom Brady and he was a little troublemaker?
No one likes a snitch. But you're in.
What if I'm the Tom Brady of spreadsheets?
You're in.
What if I'm Tim Birdie, 7-time pool champion?
The dress-up's not helping, Tom. It's Illinois.
Hey, Tom. Hi, Wayne Gretzky.
I thought it would be bigger.
Exclusive offer for new customers. Except you, Tom. You've won enough.
BetMGM is giving away money again in North Carolina right now in droves. Everyone in the state is getting hit up with cash. It's beautiful. Use the bonus code GRID. Place your first BetMGM sportsbook wager through the BetMGM mobile app for at least $5. You'll receive $150 instantaneously in winnings regardless of your wager's outcome. So you bet $5, you get $150 in bonus bets. How do you get it? Download the app on iOS or Android or visit BetMGM.com. Sign up, deposit at least $5 in your account, make a bet, $5, standard odds, boom. Whether you win or lose, it doesn't matter. You're going to get $150 in bonus bets, regardless, you heard me, of the outcome of the bet. Just win or lose, you're still getting $150 in bonus bets. Literally, these people are giving away money. It should be looked into by the Attorney General. I mean, they're just giving money away to people. It's like this president paying off all these kids' college debt. I don't know what's happening there either. BetMGM's probably in on it. They're just funneling money everywhere. What's next? They're going to give us a bunch of cash? What do you think, Carver High? Cash every day for just knowing that we bet on BetMGM's mobile app? They should give us $150 every day, the two of us together. And I'll tell you what, I got a race going right now between the BetMGM app and the SportsGrid app. Obviously, the BetMGM one you can make a ton of money on, but I think the SportsGrid one you can learn how to make a ton of money on it if you're smart, because it's a great app and it's free, and you don't have to do anything. It's free. Download it on iOS or Android. It's free. Follow your favorite hosts like Carver High, and you can watch the network on this thing, listen to the network on this thing. This app is free and badass. It's got it all: videos, highlights, stories, news, scores, highlights, and odds, in-game odds. It has it all. The SportsGrid app. All right, Carver High, set me up with the Sweet 16. We are moving into week number 2 on Thursday and Friday with a bevy of games. You had mentioned the women's. They're taking over today. I mean, there's a triple header tonight that's unequaled in women's basketball that I've ever seen before.
There really is, Scotty, and I'm gonna give you the whole bracket. We'll talk about the women later. They do have a big triple header night. The stage to themselves too. Paige Beckers at UConn at 6 East, Caitlin Clark in Iowa at 8 East, and then Watkins at USC at 10 East. So back to back to back for the women tonight. There's stars on the stage. I got numbers for you too, Scotty, in all those games later on Coast to Coast. But as I like to do with you every Monday during the tournament, the big picture, and that, of course, is 16 teams left after all the games of the past 4 days. One of these 16 is going to win it all in a couple of weeks in Glendale. And I think the thing, big picture, Scotty, before we get into all these games individually, that sticks out to me is obviously it was a lot more chalkier than I thought it was going to be going into this tournament. I thought we'd have maybe some more upsets, especially in that second round. But no, the top seeds got the job done all day on Saturday and Sunday for the most part.
Weren't they like favorites for like 15-1 straight up?
Yep. Clemson's the only one that won.
Saturday, they were 7-1 against the spread, the favorites.
Yep.
And I thought that I think Tennessee was the only one that didn't cover. I'll tell you what, I think it's disappointing, to be honest with you, that it really is, that just all the heavies are winning and all the favorites are winning and everything's it seems like it's all drawn up now. I've heard people just say no one can beat UConn. I've heard everyone say they're just going to hand it to them. And, San Diego State, I don't think they can beat them. They lost to them last year. They're going to lose to them again. I thought the San Diego State Aztec team last year with Johnson and Butler and just having more players on top of Ledee, I thought they were a better team making it to the title game. Do you think they're better this year without Johnson? I don't. I think they're going to get their ass beat.
Oh, I think they're going to get their ass beat too. It's been pretty chalky so far, but I'll say this. I think that maybe now with these 16 left, I think maybe now is when we'll see a surprise or two. UConn and Purdue, Scott, they didn't get pushed at all this past weekend. I mean, UConn and Purdue played scrimmages yesterday in those ones. I don't think that that's going to be the case for them here this weekend. We have a couple teams that maybe we overlooked that are live. I mean, NC State, what they won 8 games in a row, 7-8 games in a row. I mean, they're not losing right now, so I think that's going to be difficult for them. Clemson has gotten hot, so I think maybe we could still see a couple of upsets here this coming weekend once we get into the big dance Sweet 16 style. I'm going to give you all the spreads.
Honestly, how could any of them be upsets when they're all heavyweights?
Right. Well, look, I think that when you get to this point now, they're all heavyweights. You're right. But 4s getting to the Final Four, 3 and 4 seeds getting to the Final Four, people would consider upsets. I think when you got 16 teams left, I mean, it's a pretty even playing field. I know that UConn's maybe a step above everybody right now, but you've won a lot of basketball games to get to this point. You could almost say anyone could beat anyone here with where these teams are.
The biggest upset would be North Carolina State as an 11 seed.
Yes.
Beating Marquette, the 2 seed. That would be, I mean, they're the deepest seed as an 11.
Clemson, right?
And Clemson's a 6. That's it. San Diego State's a 5. Everyone else is a 1 through 4. That's all there is to it.
But the one thing that also does give you, and I was thinking about this last night, yes, all the top seeds won, and that usually gives you dynamite games on Thursday and Friday, right? I mean, you look at some of these matchups that we're going to have, Purdue-Gonzaga, Duke against Houston, North Carolina against Alabama. You're going to get some heavyweight matchups, Tennessee-Creighton. Those, Scotty, those are Final Four type matchups, Elite 8 type matchups that you're going to get now here in the Sweet 16.
Listen, I'm going to tell you this flat out, and I love the basketball as much as anybody on earth. But I thought yesterday there were 2 good games, the Houston A&M game and the Marquette game. I thought Colorado gave them all they could handle. They beat them by 4. The entire day I was doing Bracket Central with KW, the Kevin Walsh and Coach Young, and I said it's going to land on 4 or 5. I'm either going to cover by a hook or I'm going to lose by a hook, and I lost by a hook with Marquette. They laid 4.5 all day. From the minute the game started, it jumped. I said it's going to land on 4 or 5. This is going to be a great game, and it was. I thought the Houston game was great. I thought Garcia's shot was great. I thought Buzz Williams had his team ready. That's why he makes big money down in College Station. I think he can flat out coach. But I have to be perfectly honest when I say that every other game was absolute diarrhea. I mean, it was horrible. I am not interested in watching 25-point blowout games. They are boring. That's all there is to it. Every other game was terrible. Saturday was way better.
And I think, well, Saturday was way better. But really, and once again, the best game on Saturday was the last game of the day. I think both nights, the last game of the day being the best game, hurt too. They both ended at midnight. The Creighton-Oregon game was the best game on Saturday.
I thought the Oakland-NC State game was good.
That game was good.
I thought the Texas-Tennessee game was close and good.
Yeah.
And
Michigan State pushed for a little while with Carolina. It wasn't they second half they got smoked. They gave you a half, somewhat of a half.
Someone please, they got to stop letting him in just because of his name. They did not deserve to be in the NCAA tournament. I don't care that they won a game. Izzo gets in every year. He's been in 26 straight years, whatever it is. I'm sick and tired of it. His team shouldn't have been in, and they deserve what they got on Saturday.
No, they certainly did.
SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
SDSU -7.5, and then Washington State will take on Drake in the 7-10. Wazoo a 1.5 favorite. So we got two close ones here in terms of the spread.
State was one of the top 30 teams in the net rankings, so I think that Drake might be a little motivated to prove that, hey, our conference should have had two teams in this tournament. Indiana State didn't make it, but we'll represent pretty well.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
I was going through this bracket, and I kind of lined up where I was in the futures market. I said, I have one more bullet left. Where do I go? And I played Tennessee.
$10,000 worth of Oakland gear has been sold to people with Louisville area codes. Like, this is going to sting people who are Wildcat fans because their arch rival gets to walk around and say, you lost to who?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live, all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Carver High, the thing that bothers me about this women's tournament, I got nothing but respect for the girls playing. I love watching them. I think they play a real pure motion game of basketball and set screens and take good looks and shots and move the ball and play defense, the whole deal. My problem is that they play all these games on teams' home floors. It is the most corrupt thing I've ever seen in my life. No one will ever be able to explain to me what benefit it has for women's basketball to give all the heavyweights nothing but home games in the first 2 rounds. That is absolute bullshit, and that's all there is to it. There's no cutting around it. No, there's no Cool Whip on top here. Why are they playing all these games on these teams' home floor? It's not even fair. One team lost. Ohio State, that was it, won. I guessed with you in the break. What did I say? 98% of them won. They don't lose. The games are fixed. They are fixed for the heavyweights to win at home, to get to the Sweet 16 so that they can make their tournament better, which is corrupt and it's pathetic. They should play in neutral gyms. That's all there is to it. You have got to be kidding me that women's basketball is so little house on the prairie that they can't afford to have games in neutral arenas around the country, that the NCAA is so corrupt, and that women's sports matter so little to the NCAA's bottom line that they make the home teams, all the heavyweights get to play on their home floor. Whose bright idea was that? Like, are you kidding me at how corrupt that is?
Well, look, I think that 10, 15, 20 years ago, when they came up with this idea, it was Little House on the Prairie. There's no doubt. I think that today, with the surge and the surge in viewership and the surge in interest in it, I think they could go to neutral sites like the men's tournament does.
Why not?
The 2 reasons they don't is because obviously forever they'd be worried about going to neutral site and nobody showing up. And secondly, they do want their best teams to be there the second weekend, and this helps them get that. I think now they should go to neutrals because they have gained enough steam that they can.
Yeah, let's bring Morency into this and see what he thinks. I'm talking about, I think it's corrupt that they have women's games and all the heavyweights play on their home floor. They're literally playing home games in front of their fans. It's fixed, it's rigged, it's corrupt. It's pathetic for women's sports and the NCAA to not have this in neutral arenas. No one's going to show up. Well, then don't show up. Who cares if people don't show up? That's your problem. They shouldn't be playing games that are – look at this. I'm watching Notre Dame. They're up like 40. I mean, they're playing in South Bend. I mean, I watched Stanford. They had a tough game. They still won. Iowa tonight, she's playing her last home game. It's like a senior day for her, and everybody's going to be crying. The games are corrupt. They're playing on home floors and nothing but. It's ridiculous.
Get ready for the college football playoff. You're really going to get upset because they're going to be playing home games in the college football playoffs.
You
opening
bring
round.
Me bad news.
I'm sorry, bro.
Every day.
I'm thinking, as you were doing that, I'm like, man, if he's this mad about this, just wait till the college football playoffs start. Why is this game in South Bend?
Right. What? What is who? I mean, it's moronic. It's not fair.
I think you guys nailed something. In the past, it would be like, well, we can't put it on a neutral court, the opening round game. No one's going to show up. Now it's a little bit different. I understand it for the earlier rounds. We see this, right? Sort of like it's like the NIT, right? You play most of the tournament on your home court. We'll play the Final Four.
It's awful.
Speaking of which, I'm sweating out the game right now, bro. I've got the over of this game, 128.5. And the current in-game number right now, all right, it's 134.5. I'm surprised because they're not scoring very much over the last couple of minutes, but I'm hoping I can get there, Scott. I got to play it on this. Notre Dame and Mississippi over.
Look at Morency. It's like noon, and he's betting on a Chicks game over.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna give you my shrink's phone number. Like I never even thought about betting this game, let alone he bet the total. It's like he got out of bed and the first thing he did was bet on Notre Dame over.
Yeah, I was like, oh, basketball game starting in a couple of minutes. Notre Dame. Yeah. How about this, though, Scott? You want some hardcore stuff? There's CBI stuff going on. So I was going over the board. I'm like, so what's going on today anyways? I keep scrolling. There's a woman's NIT, bro, even. There's a WNIT. That's some hardcore stuff. Like when you're betting on, like, WNIT games.
Yeah, that's when you know you got you're losing your family, your wife, your kids. It's all ending when you start betting on that. There are men's games tonight. They're all CBI games. Actually, one of them's going on right now. Arkansas State. I laid the 2.5. They're up 10 on Montana with about 5 minutes left, and then High Point destroyed Cleveland State by 19. They blew them out, and then there's Chicago State. Fairfield, Evansville, Seattle, and Purdue, Fort Wayne, Tarleton Cigarettes tonight in other action. But I don't know. So what did you think of the games on Saturday and Sunday?
Just for the record, I'm thinking about taking Chicago State plus the 5. I think they can hang with Fairfield. Chicago State used to be one of the worst. They're like Savannah State or Mississippi Delta. You know what I mean? They were one of those paycheck teams. They would lose by 60, and, you know, it's just sort of, well, whatever. This is how we keep the program going.
They got 13 wins.
Yeah, well, this is an improvement. Look, they're playing postseason basketball right now. So it's a slow climb for them, but they've been very good against the spread this year. As far as the tournament is concerned, I think it's been I think we're in for a great Sweet 16 here right now. We talking about it all the time, man. Cinderella doesn't exist. All right, it's a fairy tale. By the time the clock strikes midnight, it's going to be blue bloods, and we have a pretty blue bloodish Sweet 16 here. But we got some great matchups coming up. It's, you know, survive in advance. You know, the Houston Cougars last night. For the love of God, Scott, I don't know how somebody could be that open when your only job is to make sure that they don't hit a 3. But Houston did that against Baylor this year. And it was at Baylor. Baylor came back on them. It went to overtime, and Houston dug down deep and beat them in overtime. You know, I like when teams are battle-tested like that. Nothing was going to be easy for this Cougars team, but, you know, Houston keep marching on. I got Houston going to the final against UConn.
Yeah, and what do you think that San Diego State game with UConn will be the second time around? It was the title game last year. I said earlier to Carver High, I think that Aztec team is better than this one.
Yeah, it's too bad, though, for San Diego State, isn't it, that you get the best team in the country. If you're going to want to play them again, you would want to play them again in the Final Four or at least in the championship game again. But this San Diego State team, man, they're a fun team to watch, you know, with the intensity that they play with. It's not pretty on every possession. They're going to have little walls where but they're like a street ball team, Scott. And Dutcher's one of the best coaches of basketball. I know Michigan hired Dustin May out of Florida Atlantic, and I don't have a problem with the hire. Something had to be done, but, you know, Dutcher, of course, was with Fisher in the Fab Five era. I know he's happy at San Diego State, but I always thought, you know, how come Dutcher isn't coaching Michigan, considering his connections and his ties? I know he's got a great thing at SDSU, but hell of a coach, man. He really is. You were talking about Buzz Williams earlier. But Dutcher,
I love him.
With what he has, Scott, I mean, to get back, look at San Diego State football. And look how just sort of
awful
they are.
Awful.
Like, these guys are good, bro. Like, it's not easy to compete. They're the only Mountain West team, Scott, that doesn't basically get their ass kicked when they get to the tournament every year.
That's right. And he's done a hell of a job, got an extension, deserved it. He's taken it from Fisher and taken it to heights Fisher never took it to. I think Dutcher's been incredible. And the fact that he can get players to play there. And I love watching Ledee. I think he's just a violent rebounder, and he's so physical inside. He uses the seal off and his body and his muscles to get buckets. He's nasty. I still think they're in big trouble against that UConn team, though. They're just so much better than everybody else.
They are. And the thing about UConn, we see they can win a high-scoring game. They can win a low-scoring game. And I really do think, Scott, like if you look at college basketball, Roy Williams is retired. Mike Krzyzewski is retired. John Calipari can't win, right? But like if you look at sort of like legendary coaches in college basketball, there really aren't that many left, right? There's a new guard. Hurley can establish himself now as the guy, right? Bill Self's got two. So I'd say Bill Self is sort of, the kingpin now. But he only has 2 championships, Bill Self, right? Hurley can get another championship. It sort of reminds me of Harbaugh a lot. His personality, the way he operates, the way, the way he gets his team going. And I just sort of feel like Harbaugh needed to prove it. Hurley's already proven it, but now Hurley has something more to prove now. Hurley's from a coaching family. We all know about his father, right? So, for him to win multiple championships would be special, right? Not just 2, but 3. Get the second one. That's what starts to separate the great quarterbacks in the NFL. You always talk, Scott, about it's all about winning. It's about winning, right? It's what made Ben Roethlisberger. He's won twice. That's better than once, right? You know what I mean? Like you get another one, and you get that third one, then people start to talk about the greatest ever, and you're amongst the all-time greats and stuff. That's the way it works. I think Hurley's that good.
Real quick, the wild card still in hockey. Tampa, Washington holding on in the East, and Nashville, Vegas in the West. You think those 4 will make it?
You know what? Give me the blue. Give me the Blues tonight against the Vegas Golden Knights. This Blues team is smoking hot right now. Home dogs, massive game, man. This is it. Like it's hard to gain ground. St. Louis. This is like one of those 4-point swing games tonight against Vegas. And an early start time for the Kings and the Canucks in Vancouver, 6 o'clock. Canucks are a streaky team. They've won 3 in a row. Take the Canucks and the under.
Catch Sports Rage tonight at 10 East. Thanks, Gabe.
SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now. We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
SDSU -7.5, and then Washington State will take on Drake in the 7-10. Wazoo a 1.5 favorite. So we got 2 close ones here in terms of the spread.
State was one of the top 30 teams in the net rankings, so I think that Drake might be a little motivated to prove that, hey, our conference should have had 2 teams in this tournament. Indiana State didn't make it, but we'll represent pretty well.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
I was going through this bracket, and I kind of lined up where I was in the futures market. I said, I have one more bullet left. Where do I go? And I played Tennessee.
$10,000 worth of Oakland gear has been sold to people with Louisville area codes. Like, this is going to sting people who are Wildcat fans because their arch rival gets to walk around and say, you lost to who?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning
or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Mike DeCourcy, the legend from the Sporting News, and of course he's very famous now. He's on Fox Sports doing college basketball all season long. He wears a suit, the whole deal. He even said he prefers wearing a suit to being comfortable on the show one day recently. It was embarrassing. I will agree with you on one thing to start this interview today. I watched this kid, Kolick, play ball, and I'm like, yesterday I was doing Bracket Central with the Kevin Walsh and Coach Young, and I was like, it's like watching Steve Nash. The guy's going around in circles on the baseline, comes out into the paint and shoots a mini hook. You know, they're lying when they say he's 6'3". If that kid's 6'3", then I'm 6'11". All I know is the way he handles the ball, the way he sees the floor, the way he passes, the way he slip passes on a fake pick and roll. Where the guy dives and he sends that ball down on the floor. I mean, he's got it down to a science, Mike. He's unbelievable. He's why Marquette's as good as they are.
Absolutely, Scott. I saw him play against Illinois in the Gavitt games his sophomore year, and I was struck immediately by his feel for the game, his vision, his understanding of how to play with the ball in his hands. And so when I was doing Inside the Big East for Fox about a month and a half later or so, I checked in with Marquette to find out a little bit about his background. And I was just astonished to discover that before he got to Marquette, Scott, he wasn't even a full-time point guard. I just can't wrap my head around that.
That's crazy.
He wasn't. He started another school before that, and he did handle the ball occasionally, frequently maybe, but he was not their point guard. And it's just amazing to me what a gift he has. And he was amazing against Colorado on Sunday. Colorado played a great game.
Great game.
They did. And it a game that was good enough that begged the question, as many teams throughout this Sweet 16 or this NCAA tournament have, I should say. And that is, Scott, where's this been all year? Why weren't you this team all year? Because if Colorado was this team all year, they would not have been playing Marquette on Sunday. They would not have been a 10 seed. They would have been playing from an advantage seed. Clemson, where was that 2 weeks ago when you played Boston College in the ACC tournament? Boston College isn't awful, but are they 20 points better than you? That's the teams now, they're standing still alive in the Sweet 16, and they're like, why did you doubt us? And then it's like, well, it's all over your record why we doubted you. You didn't play like this. You did now. Congratulations, but don't blame us for doubting you.
So when I'm watching the game yesterday, I'm like, I see it like I were coaching it or playing. And the one thing I kept yelling, because I had him on a double-double bet, right? And in the first half, he literally got it, the double-double. And every time someone else had the ball in their hands off of a rebound, they would, move the ball up, whether it was Jones or whoever. I always yelled the same thing. Give him the ball. Give him the ball. Give him the ball. I want no one else touching the ball. They're big, who I call Stonehenge, with his cement hands. You heard me. Every time he threw the ball to him, the ball went out of bounds. Every time he threw the ball to him, he dropped it. I won't deny he can play, but I need the ball in his hands at all times. Like, he's one of those players. Same thing with Burns for NC State. You see what they do? It's like, give him the ball. Everything goes through him. If I had Shaquille O'Neal, give him the ball every time. I play with a guy 6'10", I bring the ball up, I'm like, All right, Pete. I throw it right up in the air to his hand. He's like 7'9" when he reaches his arm out. I yell for Kolek to have the ball at all times. No one else on that team should touch the ball, Mike.
Well, I will say that this week in their game against NC State, Oso Ighodaro, who you impugned there, who I think is magnificent. He did not have one of his better days on Sunday, but he is one of the best pick and roll players in America. He is phenomenal coming out of the pick and roll. He's a great ball handler, one of the best passing bigs I have seen in college basketball. A lot of times when you get a great passing big like a Kevin Love, it's because they have that great vision for the full court pass. But this is someone who's elite in traffic.
What happened to him yesterday, Dan? I looked like I was watching a guy that didn't wear his contacts.
I don't think that he was getting the best passes to him. I don't. Maybe the angles were complicated by the size of the Colorado players. I don't know what it was. He was not handling the ball as well as usual. I think that's why they went away from pick and roll. But I'm telling you, pick and roll against DJ Burns is the way to bother NC State. With the way Ighodaro can move out of that screen, I think that's your chance to undo Burns' influence in this game. Otherwise, you're stuck with a steady diet of him gumming up things around the rim, making it hard for Kolek to get in tight, and then on the other end of the court, him feasting on low post opportunities. So you got to get him moving, and you got to bother him, or Marquette's going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I had another, and by the way, I have Marquette in the Final Four. I had Tennessee playing Marquette. I also had Iowa State upsetting UConn. And then I had Baylor, and Baylor bit it yesterday at the hands of Clemson, which I just still can't explain. But let's talk about Edey for a second. We had a PRA prop going to 50 yesterday watching this guy, and he had 37 of that in the first half. And then in the second half, he had 2 points and 1 rebound and shut it down. And I was devastated. I mean, I thought this guy was easily on his way to like a 65 PRA yesterday. He is so unbelievable. He's just unstoppable. I don't care what anybody says. You've got to foul him. And everyone hammers this guy. I've never seen a guy get fouled more than this guy. And I don't even think the refs know how to handle it because he gets fouled so much they can't call it every time.
I think they've gotten better, Scott. I thought he got a fair whistle through the Big Ten season, and I was at the second game this weekend, and I thought that he got a very fair whistle in those games. Danny Sprinkle, the coach at Utah State, acknowledged he's hard to guard without fouling. It's really that simple. So teams foul him, and if they get away with it, then they have success. And if they don't, then Zach goes to the free throw line, and their players get into foul trouble. But I think that as long as he gets a fair whistle, then Purdue is a threat here because if they are able to play freely through him, then they're really hard to stop. Now, they have to make perimeter shots because different teams have tried different ways to stop Zach. They'll guard him one-on-one and force Zach to maybe score 35 and then see if they can scrape up enough points around him to win, or other teams will guard him with 3 to 4 players, and then it's up to Zach to make the decisions to find the open guy. It happened a lot yesterday early with Trey Kaufman-Renn. He was really successful at that. He's the power forward. And if you guard him with multiple players, then players like Fletcher Lawyer, Lance Jones, Braden Smith, they have to make shots. If they have a game where all their guys are missing at once, then Purdue can be in trouble.
Lawyer was hitting shots yesterday. The Grambling coach and Sprinkle both were trying to sell the refs on his dropping his shoulder into the chest of the defender. Everyone's trying to get that call. Do you feel that that's an illegal move when he bangs and he's so big when he goes down and drives into the defender with his shoulder to get space for that little mini hook, which is lethal from 5-6 feet out? He's lethal. Do you feel that's an illegal move? Because I don't.
No, I mean, think about what you see with DJ Burns from NC State. I mean, if using your movement and displacing the defender a little bit is illegal, then any post player who can bounce the ball is going to make illegal moves. And I don't think that's reasonable. I don't think that's a reasonable standard. You make a very static game if the big man is not allowed to advance the basketball and the defense is allowed to invade the the opposing big man's space. Why would the defense be entitled to that? There's still the cylinder rule theoretically. So if you're coming into his space and they don't stop that from happening, they allow you to make contact. But if you're coming into his space, then he's entitled to come into yours. Now he's not entitled to come into yours with overwhelming force that knocks you clear, that totally not that just dislodges you by a step, but that knocks you out of the play or onto the floor or something like that. That's an offensive foul, regardless of how they've changed the charge rules. But if you are not granted the ability to advance the basketball with the dribble, then the defense should not be allowed to contact you while you have it.
Do you believe that Mark Few has the best chance as a brilliant coach to draw up a plan to stop Purdue and to stop Edey of anyone left in this tournament?
Don't. I think he certainly could. I mean, he's a tremendous coach, but I think the more likely team to beat them would be the winner of Friday's Sweet 16 game between Creighton and Tennessee. I think that's the team that is the most dangerous. And I have it as Tennessee, but I'm not. I mean, that's like one of those 52-48 kind of deals. I really love Creighton's team. I think they're terrific. Tennessee has not inspired me with their offensive performance lately. They need to get it back together. They had it together for a long while there during that stretch when they went through Auburn and Alabama and South Carolina late in February. They looked like they'd gotten it figured out. They seem to have misplaced it. They can relocate, but they're running out of time. And obviously, if you don't score against Creighton, you're going home with a double-digit L.
Do you think the Illinois-Iowa State game is the best game on this docket?
I love that game, but I mentioned the one I think. I'm not a big on if you can only watch one game because I'm going to watch them all, Scott, and
That's
you
right.
are too.
That's right. That's right.
But in ranking them, I would rank the Tennessee Creighton game as the best game of the Sweet 16, and then I would follow that up with Illinois-Iowa State because of the contrast in styles. The best offense in college basketball against the best defense. That's a fascinating challenge. I don't know that either the winner, no matter which it is, I don't know that they have a long future in this tournament, given who's lurking above the UConn Huskies. But it should be a fascinating game, and whoever does win that game certainly has the capacity to make UConn work for their Final Four berth.
Well, you heard Hurley talk about their elite level play of, you get a guard having 20, you got a big blocking shots and getting dunks and layups all day. When they got two or three pieces clicking, he said, we're almost impossible to beat.
They are. I mean, especially by this field. But I remember, everybody that goes into a game has the capacity to take that opponent down a notch and to keep them from clicking. And that's the challenge. And we've seen that year after year after year. And I go back. I did a piece that was published last Friday about UConn's attempt to repeat, in which I talked to Greg Anthony. He was gracious enough to talk to me about one of his not favorite days when UNLV lost to Duke in the 1991 semifinals. That UNLV team was better than this UConn team. I mean, that's no insult. That UNLV team was better than anybody who's ever lost in this deal.
Right.
And a lot of them that have won. But the point is that if another team is extraordinary, and Duke reached a level of extraordinary in that season on that weekend, or maybe in that month, then it can happen. So UConn has to be aware of that. And I don't know I still have my doubts about whether that team exists in this field, but I won't rule it out until because I didn't think going in 91 that that Duke was necessarily the team that would take out UNLV. I thought it was possible. I never thought that they were unbeatable, because no one is.
Mike, you're the best. Enjoy the games Thursday and Friday. Thanks for coming on Coast to Coast, as always.
SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now. We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
SDSU -7.5, and then Washington State will take on Drake in the 7-10. Wazoo a 1.5 favorite. So we got two close ones here in terms of the spread.
State was one of the top 30 teams in the net rankings, so I think that Drake might be a little motivated to prove that, hey, our conference should have had two teams in this tournament. Indiana State didn't make it, but we'll represent pretty well.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
I was going through this bracket, and I kind of lined up where I was in the futures market. I said, I have one more bullet left. Where do I go? And I played Tennessee.
$10,000 worth of Oakland gear has been sold to people with Louisville area codes. Like, this is going to sting people who are Wildcat fans because their arch rival gets to walk around and say, you lost to who?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats and fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smarty.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
So, Scoop Mish, always landing the big fish. Here he is on Newswire today talking to Braves GM and President of Baseball Ops, Alex Anthopoulos.
Pitching is going to look a little bit different for the Braves this season. Of course, Max Fried is back, and so is Spencer Strider. Charlie Morton, you got him back for another season. But, wow, Chris Sale is on the Atlanta Braves for people who haven't paid attention to it. He has looked awesome this spring. Reynaldo Lopez, potential fifth starter for you guys as well. But I think everyone is quite familiar with most of the names on the Braves. Maybe they did not see Chris Sale pitch in the spring, Alex, and you did. What did you see? And with that trade, with him coming in, can he get back to what he was several years ago, which is the ace of any rotation that he pitches on?
I think he's capable of certainly being there. I think that's tough to put on anybody, right? Just having that kind of year. But he looks phenomenal. 3-pitch mix, strikes. I think the biggest thing, part of the appeal of acquiring was this was the first regular, normal offseason he would have. He wasn't rehabbing anything. He could get thrown earlier. And that's really been important for him. And I know from experience with Charlie Morton, that's been a key to his seasons is having a normal offseason, not having an injury to rehab and so on. And look, we know when Chris Sale's on the mound, he's a top-flight starter. So we wanted to go out and get someone we felt good about starting a playoff game. We absolutely feel that with Chris. He's continued to show us fantastic stuff in the spring. And like all these guys, health is going to be the most important thing. But when he's out there, we expect him to be a mid to front of the rotation guy.
Carver High, that's all wonderful and fine at the dinner party, but I don't believe for 1 minute that guy stays healthy. He never has.
That is the absolute, I got to see it to believe it, right?
That's right.
I mean, because we're not talking about 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. We're talking about a long time now where he hasn't been able to pitch an entire season. Got to see it to believe it. But everything turns to gold down there in Atlanta, usually in the regular season. So I'm sure it'll go great for them.
Yeah, I don't buy that. You said it best. I'll believe it when I see it. I know one thing: he'll get injured. He always does. And people talking about him being an ace still are tripping.